Hello, everybody, and welcome into Bad for Baseball, the baddest baseball podcast on the internet, presented to you by Betway. I'm your host, Nicholas Playlog, joined alongside by Adam Peddle. Holy crap, those LA Dodgers. Those LA Dodgers are genuinely, this isn't clickbait, breaking the game of baseball right now. Yeah. This offseason, any offseason, it feels like the LA Dodgers can just do it at will. At this point, I'm not kidding, right? It's like they go out, they get Roki Sasaki, which is an insane signing in its own right, and then without even blinking, they go and they bring in one of the best closers in the game in Tanner Scott. It feels like we're not even talking enough about that because we're just looking at what might be the greatest roster in all of, not even just baseball, but all of sports right now. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some other free agents, news, rumors, what's going on with those San Diego Padres and the Toronto Blue Jays after missing out on Roki, and Max Scherzer. Is he going to get a new team pretty soon? He might be going north of the border, so we're going to talk about that and a lot more in this one. First things first, Adam. I know
how I'm feeling.
I know that you'd be feeling a lot better if you were an LA Dodgers fan.
Yeah, of course I'd be feeling a lot better. I mean, if I'm an LA Dodgers fan, this feels like MLB The Show, and it's so funny when everyone complains about the Dodgers. The only people that aren't complaining are the LA Dodgers. I mean, if my team, I'm playing devil's advocate right here, if my team went out and did all these moves, yeah, I'd be kind of laughing right now, and I'd be feeling pretty good, and I wouldn't feel bad for anybody else. I'd be feeling very good for myself, and I'd want to go see a World Series ring come to my city.
Let's be very clear about all this, too. I'm sure there has actually been some accusations of cheating, which we'll get into a little bit, or tampering at the very least.
Yeah.
But, for the most part, they're playing within the rules, right?
Technically, yes.
They're playing completely within the rules. It's like they're spending all of these MLB free agents, all these players. The Rockies could theoretically have gone out and done the same thing, or the Marlins could have theoretically gone out and done the same thing.
Theoretically, it's so funny because another conversation we're gonna have tonight is about salary cap, because theoretically yes, but they actually can't because there is no salary cap, and they don't have enough money, and they're not getting the funding, they're not getting the ticket sales, they're not getting the TV revenue that the LA Dodgers get. So the LA Dodgers have the advantage of being in a highly great market. They got lots of eyeballs on their TVs, especially the fact that they got all these Japanese players coming over, and they're all watching their games over there from Japan. So yes and no, but we'll get into that a little bit later.
Well, let's first start off with Roki deciding to go over there. At this point, I feel like this conversation has been pretty exhausted, so we're not going to talk too much about just the deal and everything like that, but I think that it's important to note that Roki going over there isn't just a win now move for those LA Dodgers, but this is like a win now and then in 6 years type of move.
Right.
What I think has got people so up in arms right now about the LA Dodgers is that the fact that, with guys like Roki, with the fact that you just locked up Tanner Scott for 4 years, you're not even just building a super team, you're building a super dynasty because, these guys are going to be with you for years to come.
Yeah. Blake Snell's going to be there forever, Yamamoto's there forever, Glass now. Your rotation, which was a huge problem last year, looks like it's got a longevity of 6, 7, 8 years.
It's fucking insane, right? And I think that the wildest part about all of it is that they won the World Series, and I made a video about this on a separate channel, right? So I'm pretty familiar with where they were at. The only guy that was on that or that's in the rotation right now that even threw one inning in the postseason was Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Every other one of them didn't even play in the postseason.
Yeah, and they had the bullpen to thank for it, and now their bullpen's even getting more stacked. Right now, you have it on Fangraphs. They're projected to have a 6-man rotation. That's how much depth they have now versus last year. A 6-man rotation and a 7-man bullpen. That'll get the job done. Who needs an 8th man in the bullpen when every 6 games you got guys rested up to go 6, 7, 8 innings? You know what I mean?
Bro, do you even put Ohtani back on the mound? I've heard that they're going to.
Yeah,
I've heard that he's going to pitch, but
of course.
with all of the talent that you have there, it's the guy hit 50 bombs and stole 50 bases.
Yeah.
Like, I almost prefer to just keep him healthy at this point if we don't need him necessarily. You know?
I think, we do put him on the mound. You're paying $70 million for a reason because of that talent to go on the mound. Plus, like, what's the worst that could happen? He could blow out his arm and like he actually can't move his arm at all, and then he can't hit. But like usually if you get like like a Tommy John, like remember Bryce Harper a year ago? Like he got a Tommy John. You can recover from that a lot faster from a hitter. You know what I mean? Like you could still swing a bat with Tommy John. You just have to go play first base like Bryce Harper. But in Shohei Ohtani's case, I can just go be a DH. So it doesn't matter too much.
Well, I mean, it's going to be one of those things where, like, I can see if he does get injured or if he does get fatigued, for instance, because that's also another thing. Now, we've seen him do it before, but, not getting any younger. If he does get fatigued or injured, I could see how the whole conversation is like, oh, why did you ever put him out there? You have so many guys to begin with. But, I mean, again, time will only tell there.
Yeah, and also, like, that's why you got 6 guys that are all elite pitching in that rotation.
Right. You can give him the benefit of some added rest,
yes.
Which I do think honestly is a great option for them and something that they should be doing.
Especially when you sign Tyler Glasnow. Now I know he's not the focal point of this rotation, but he was never getting over 150 innings ever. And he was super elite stuff when he was on the mound, but he kept getting fatigued, he kept getting hurt and not finishing his seasons ever with Tampa Bay and with the Dodgers last year. So why not add a 6-man? And who cares about if they get to 170 innings when you're all healthy and going to the World Series?
Well, that's the thing. Like, ultimately, long gone are the days where you need these starting pitchers to, all pitch over 200 innings. Now, if you do have one of those guys that can eat up 200 a season and, do it at a quality level, it's like, oh, that's awesome. But, I mean, if you have a bunch of other, like, I don't actually care where the innings come from as long as they're all quality, right? So it's like, what's the difference from getting 200 from this guy, or instead, we just get 170 from like 6 different guys or what have you, right? As long as they're all fucking good innings of baseball, like who cares?
Yeah, exactly, right. And I want to go back to the thing you said about how they're going to have this team for a long time. They're going to be a dynasty. I'm looking at their contracts. This is just 3 years in the future. This is 2027 right now. So we got 2025, 2026, and then for the 2027 season, they're still going to have Blake Snell, Glasnow, Yamamoto, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Teoscar Hernandez, Tommy Edman, Will Smith, Hyun Kim, who we forgot about, Shohei Ohtani, of course, and then Tanner Scott is going to be on his final
that's
or
insane.
Third or whatever year.
That's crazy.
That's crazy. And then who drops off from 2027 to 2028? It's just Freddie Freeman. At that point, maybe he's getting older.
Yeah. Well, at that point, I mean, I'm sure that, we can just reinvest that money into the next, the
next guy.
The next super elite. No, like what they've done. And again, there is some innate negativity towards the LA Dodgers because we're jealous. And, we're jealous and we're frustrated at the fact that, we're watching all this MLB free agency happen and it's like, are you kidding me again? Another one? So there is that. But, again, credit to the Dodgers front office for accomplishing what they've accomplished. Like, they have built such an incredible foundation that, like, it doesn't even matter that you could lose like 3 or 4 guys to injury and you're still the best team in baseball.
Of course.
Right?
Of course.
Like you don't need any prospects to break out. Now it's like anything else. It's just it's cherry on top.
Yeah, well,
like,
I was bringing up to you right before this podcast, Bobby Miller, who last year everybody was talking so highly of. I remember even Trevor Plouffe from Talking Baseball being like, dude, this guy you have to watch for, because not only did the year prior he put up like a 3.67 ERA and was throwing over 100 miles per hour, but he was like, oh, like, this is a highly touted prospect. And then obviously he had some injuries and some underperformances. And now he's in the AAA team for the LA Dodgers. He's not ever going to touch an MLB field this year unless, of course, there's injuries to that team. That is luxury. Yeah. That's insane.
No, I actually feel bad for Bobby Miller.
Of course I feel bad for Bobby Miller.
The guy's like should be in MLB right now.
He could start for the Blue Jays.
He could start for 29 other teams. Literally. It just so happens that the one team that he is on, he cannot start for.
Right.
So, no, like what they're doing is wild. And obviously Roki is the latest one of those, I guess, baseball Avengers, if you will, that's joined the crew. He alongside Tanner Scott as well. And I think that one, kind of not even really falling under the radar, but it's just like I think people are so fatigued at talking about the LA Dodgers that like they're forgetting at just how amazing that of a signing that is. He went for 4 years, $72 million.
That's a big deal.
It is, and like that alone, I think is why you're really starting to see some of these salary cap conversations come up. $72 million that they gave out to that guy. That's after they paid 182 or whatever it was for Blake Snell. That's after they re-signed Teoscar Hernandez. That's after, in years prior, they signed Ohtani, signed Freeman.
Dude, I got all their moves right here. Snell, Sasaki, Teoscar, Kim, and Edman. They all paid this free agency. And then, of course,
that's fucking
Scott.
Nuts, dude. Like, you were supposed to have a quiet off-season. Because last off-season and the season before that and the season before that were your big off-seasons. This was supposed to be a quiet off-season. You win the World Series, it's like, oh, okay, we can let a couple pieces go. It's no big deal. And they're getting better.
Yeah, exactly. I know. And I like what you brought up, the whole salary cap thing, because, I mean, it is kind of getting ridiculous at the point. We had the same reaction with the Mets a couple of years ago with Steve Cohen when they were projected to have about $350 million. Right now, the Dodgers, they're projected to get $371 million of luxury tax and total payroll this entire season.
And the fact that they're only accounting for $2 million of Ohtani and like half of Mookie Betts' contract.
Right, we're not even counting the deferred money right now. That's just what they're paying in 2025.
Yeah.
So like it could be getting close to $500 million.
Yeah, because I know for sure that like Mookie is only getting paid, I think, like a third of what he should be getting paid.
Right.
Freddie Freeman, I think something similar to that. I don't know if it's quite a third, but like half of it's like all of their big guys. It's like at least half of their contract is getting paid later. Yeah. So they might have $371 on the books right now, but actually it is more like 500 or even more than that.
Well, like I'm looking at 2028 right now, and usually 3 or 4 years down the line, you'll see all these teams like their salaries
drop significantly.
Just drop off, right? I mean, like the sixth highest one projected in 2028 is only committed $91 million, and that's the Braves right now, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas you have the Dodgers still committing $226 million. That's more than one, two. Hold on. That's more than most teams other than 1, 2, 3, 4, 3 teams right now this season.
Right.
Like that, and that's because of all the deferred money. So luxury tax, Nick, like I know we've been down this rabbit hole before because we had that whole CBA thing happen a couple of years ago. Very disastrous for any Blue Jays or baseball content creator out there where you couldn't make any content about anything. But do you think that they should be going back and revisiting that conversation the next CBA, which is December 1st, 2026? Because a lot of people right now are feeling frustrated, but we all know what that means. You might lose an entire MLB season.
Well, I certainly don't want to lose an entire MLB season. Like that's, I mean, again, that's the livelihood, so can't really be doing that. But I do think that this is crazy. And again, it is credit to the Dodgers for playing well within the rules, right? Like you have the money, and if the Marlins had the money, they might do the same thing, but they don't, right? It's like you are living a life of luxury, and you're not sitting idly by and just making money about it. No, you're going out and you're winning more, and you're growing your brand, and you're doing everything. So again, credit where credit is due. But this is stupid, and it kind of feels like in the last few off seasons especially, it's like the MLB, there's 30 teams. Yeah, thank you. I always mix them up with football, but 30 teams in MLB, but really there's only like 6 teams in MLB. Because of who goes out and actually signs the free agents, and ultimately, like I can list on my one hand like who's gonna win the next 5 World Series, right? Because those are the guys that have the funds to do so. So yes, I do think that there needs to be something done about this. I've seen some people go out there and like Trevor Plouffe, for instance, he was like, oh yeah, like this is great for baseball because like they set the bar and everything like that. And I'm like, okay, I hear you and I get it, and you're gonna get new fans watching the Dodgers, but like they set a bar that I don't think anyone can really match. And maybe the Yankees, maybe the Mets, maybe, but like I don't even know if they can like reach that height, So I don't know, man. It's something needs to be done. I'm not sure how you do it, but something needs to be done.
Yeah, it's funny. I kind of look at the way baseball sets up their payroll as a very capitalistic way, where it's like you have the freedom and the luxury to go do whatever you want. Sure, there's some penalties, like we'll tax the rich. Like that's the competitive luxury tax when you're really rich. But you can still have the freedom to go and spend and do whatever you want. And you can market yourself however you want. You can go sign whoever you want. You could do whatever you want. It's a lot of freedom in that regards. And then what happens is when you get the big, mega, corporations like the Dodgers breaking out and doing all these things that are unfair, people go, well, that's not fair. We have to make it a little bit more even and kind of move the needle a little bit right now.
Well, I think, though, that like recently, and, I'm sure there's been dynasties before in baseball. Obviously, the Yankees have had dynasties, and there's been other teams that have had dynasties. But recently, it's felt with all these mega deals and everything like that, the gap, and this is true to actually the world.
Yeah,
but the gap between the top 1% and then the rest of like the 80% of the other teams. It's massive. Like the chart of like, the wealth up here at the top 1% compared to like all of the other teams. It is a huge difference. And this system, the formula, like the capitalistic system that they employ in baseball, it promotes that, right? And you've seen that kind of grow over time. And I think that you're reaching a point where it's like, this is too much to overcome. Like there can be a difference. There can be. It's like you're willing to spend this much and we're willing to spend that much, and it's fine. But what we're seeing right now is just so much. Other teams don't have that. Tampa Bay Rays will never win the World Series. They will never win the World Series. In this current format, the Tampa Bay Rays will never. In fact, I could probably list off 10 teams that will never, ever win the World Series in this current format.
Oh, yeah. I want to list them off for now. I got all the lowest payrolls right now.
I can go off the top of my head right now. The Tampa Bay Rays will never win the World Series. The Miami Marlins will never win the World Series.
The Athletics.
The Athletics maybe when they go to Vegas, who knows?
Yeah.
But
let's say in the next 5 years.
Yeah.
Like
they're never going to win the World Series.
White Sox.
White Sox will never win the World Series. Rockies will never win the World Series. But that's more about mismanagement than anything else. They're never going to win the World Series. Who else has no money? Pittsburgh, here's the thing about Pittsburgh.
They
never spend.
Yeah.
I wonder, though, and that's the thing about some of these teams, Pittsburgh, like some of the teams that you think would have money.
They have an opportunity for marketing potential because they are Pittsburgh.
Yes.
But they just never do it.
That's the thing, right? It's like
That's the capitalistic way. There's an opportunity for everybody.
Yes.
You just have to take advantage of it.
But there are specific teams out
Cleveland.
there that genuinely, Cleveland, for instance, like you don't have it. You never will have it.
Yeah.
You've been good. Like Cleveland's been good, and they just don't actually have it.
Yeah.
And therefore, it's like, how are they ever going to compete? It's really, really tough.
Yeah, what's funny is probably the best of these poor teams. Cleveland won in them, but Milwaukee has always been the best of the poor teams.
Milwaukee will never,
That's the thing is like they did everything they possibly could in their own, financial capabilities, and they always come up short.
Yeah, because
they just never do.
Like it's one of those things where Milwaukee, like I think we can all agree, Milwaukee is a well-coached, developed baseball team. That, with all intents and purposes, like they're a solid squad, but they always run into the glass ceiling where it's just like
you got Ohtani, Yamamoto.
Eventually, like we just, we're playing from behind the 8 ball like so much. You're not gonna be able to do it, right?
So is there any way for like baseball to rectify this and make it fair? Because again, if you try to, then you're gonna have a locked out season regardless. But beyond the point of that, is there any way to fix it other than salary cap?
The only way that I can really actively think about it is the salary cap. You can try to impose more, I guess,
CBT.
whatever's, taxes and shit like that. But it's the same thing,
You know what I was thinking too? I thought about this the other day. What if you got your CBT money, and maybe there is this already in place, but what if your CBT money, if for every dollar that you spend over the luxury tax, all these other guys, it has to go directly to like Miami Marlins and Athletics. Like all that tax goes to the guys at the bottom. And that and maybe it's distributed evenly. Like there's some calculations so that it's like a little bit more fair, not just like all of a sudden Miami has $200 million that they can just spend all of a sudden. But it boosts everyone from the bottom up. So every time you go over, you're helping pay for other teams to get better. I don't know how that would work. But,
yeah, I'm not sure how that would work either. That feels like it seems in theory like a good idea, and then one in practice that might not work out. But it's who knows?
Because I'm wondering where the CBT. Maybe I'm ignorant to this. Where does the CBT money go right now? It's just pay the MLB.
I think MLB just gets it.
They just get profit. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Maybe a portion of that or something goes towards the other guys because then that way.
Never.
I know exactly.
MLB would never.
But they see MLB probably would never because this is the whole problem with the whole CBA. There's always a disagreement, but I think the players' union would because that's more money going in the pockets of players.
Well, and here's the other thing as well, and this is why we're not going to see a salary cap, and there's not going to be a lockout, and there's not going to be anything, because ultimately, who's motivated? The fans are motivated, but who's actively motivated to get a salary cap?
The owners right now, I think, are motivated right now because that's what I'm reading in this article is that the other owners of other teams can't sign any players because they'll just keep going to those other teams that are mega super teams, right?
So here's the thing though, is that I think that you're gonna see, because you got the owners and then you got the players.
Yeah, players. Yeah,
players are very clearly
for no
salary cap. We all want to get paid our mega millions and whatever. The owners, whilst some of them are going to be certainly we want a salary cap, there's also going to be a relatively significant portion that are going to not want that.
Yeah.
And then you're also going to have the overarching MLB, and they're also not going to want a salary cap because for them, I mean, let's face it, the LA Dodgers are good for business right now.
Right.
Think about how much, how many more people are watching and tuning into that one team.
I think the MLB will try to influence the owners to not want a salary cap. Again, you have to do something on your part because the people who go to the CBA isn't the MLB, it's the owners and it's the players.
I know, but I'm sure that the MLB has some type of voice.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. It's I think that, but you need to influence and incentivize the owners. If you really don't want to lockout, that's the thing too. The MLB, the last thing they want is a lockout right now, especially in the next 2 years, right? Because of what you're seeing, the Dodgers. As much as we hate it from a fan perspective, this is good for growing baseball. This is making people interested in baseball. If I was just a casual, even if I wasn't a fan of baseball, I want to watch the Dodgers. That's great baseball I'm watching over there.
It's easy, man. It's
like the Chiefs.
Easy.
It's like the Chiefs in football, not to the same level. Because let's be honest, you were to stack up just roster and ratios to other teams in their own respective leagues in terms of talent, ratio of talent and money. The Dodgers are murdering it.
Well,
right
it's ultimately the Dodgers are, and it's crazy. You'd think in a sport like baseball, it's tough to get a super team because there's so many different roster spots and so many different positions. It's so much easier on basketball where it's
right.
You bring 3 superstars together and it's oh shit, there's an NBA title right there. But I was thinking about it, and just from a pure pound for pound, roster to roster thing, you'd have to look around all of sports to really find a comparable, maybe in soccer, Real Madrid, maybe, I don't know, I'm not as familiar, but there's not a lot of other teams in the world out there that will have as much, just pound for pound talent as the Dodgers do right now.
Yeah, and I'm looking at just the upper echelons of talent. I'm looking at right now their payroll, and this is not without deferrals. You got Ohtani at $70 million, Blake Snell $36 million, Glasnow $32 million, Betts $30 million, Freddie Freeman $27 million. Then there's a drop off. Teoscar Hernandez $17 million, and then Michael Conforto $17 million. Jesus Christ, that top five. That top five's untouchable. That's insane.
Yeah, of course. So ultimately, LA Dodgers are going to continue to be the LA Dodgers. Let us know in the comments down below, guys. What do you think about all of this? I would imagine that if you are not a Dodgers fan, then you're probably really frustrated. And again, we are too. I do think that something ought to be done about this. I think that you're going to see. Honestly, it depends on the results. I think that if you see the LA Dodgers win the next 2 World Series in a row, if they three-peat, then it's okay.
We got to do something about this.
That's
this is stupid.
The results are going to show, because you can go out, you can sign all these guys and whatever, but ultimately, it's what's really going to piss people off is if you keep winning.
Yeah, exactly. Because I was going to say, if they lose, I think that's honestly really great for baseball because that rallies a whole 29 other teams together to be like, F these guys.
Yeah.
Bring them down.
Again, like it's gonna they still got to do it. You got 162 games to play, and then you got the postseason, and hell, I mean the San Diego Padres were a couple runs away from knocking them off last time. So baseball is a game where anything just sports in general is a game where anything can happen. The fucking Lions lost to the Commanders this past weekend, so literally anything could happen, man. But if they do keep winning, you might see changes.
Well, I mean, yeah, like 100 wins divided by 162, which is like a very phenomenal baseball team, which is what they're projected to get. That's still 61% of the time that they're winning games. So, that's like
40% they lose.
Flipping a little heavier coin on the head side, and maybe you do get unlucky a couple times, or the other teams get lucky, and you win some series right there.
So we'll see what happens with them, guys. Let's give a quick shout out to one of the sponsors of this podcast, Betway. Everybody, hit your picks, knock it out of the park. Like we said, there was some wild football games that transpired this weekend, and now we have the matchups for the upcoming weekend. You got the Buffalo Bills taking on the Kansas City Chiefs, and then you also have the Commanders taking on the Eagles. Which game are we looking at?
Let's do Eagles versus Commanders. Who would have thought that, eh? A nice NFC East matchup. Washington going to the NFC Championship. That's wild. And also super cool. Good for Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, great for them, man. I would anticipate that this is where their run ends.
Yeah, it better be.
But you never know.
That would be a wild Super Bowl with Jaden Daniels taking on either like Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's cool. We'll see. But in this one, they got to get past the Eagles, who are obviously the heavy favorites at home. 144 is their money line, and Commanders 285 is their money line. I like the spread's very close. It's plus 4.5 Commanders, and obviously it's 190. It's an even spread. And then Eagles is negative 4.5. What are you thinking for this one? Where would you put your money if you had to bet on a winner?
Well, if I had to bet on a winner, I think the Eagles are going to win them. In fact, I'll just take Eagles spread as well.
Yeah.
Like I do think that. Maybe I'm underselling the Commander. In fact, I am underselling the Commanders.
It was a very close game with the Rams. Like they only won by. What was it?
I think they actually took it right at the end. No, because I think Barkley went for a shitload.
Yeah, and then I think the Rams scored. And I forget how it ended. I think it was like
28-22.
Yeah, it was like
6.
Something very close.
I don't know.
But either way, it was
yeah, I'm taking Eagles. I think that they'll look. And this is a great run by Jaden Daniels, but like this would be wild if he came out and was capable of doing it. Now, the one thing I will say is that Jalen Hurts' knee is all fucky.
That's true.
So that's a little concerning, but I just think that Saquon Barkley is going to will the team to victory.
Has a rookie ever brought their team to the Super Bowl? I thought I heard that stat that like no rookie has done that before. Maybe I'm talking out of my ass right now.
I
but
feel like somewhere it's got to have happened. Yeah.
But if it did, I mean, regardless, if it did or didn't, like that's super impressive. But yeah, I mean, it's got to end here, right? It's got to end here. But if you're a Commanders fan, I mean, I wouldn't feel bad. If you truly believed in the Commanders, it wouldn't feel bad throwing a couple dollars on maybe some points totals or something. Or maybe some player props. But you guys can check it all out on the Betway app. Click the link in the description or scan the QR code to join the action. Must be 19 plus, available in Ontario only. Please play responsibly. Did anybody win it?
No rookie quarterback has ever won a Super Bowl, but a few have come close by leading their teams to the Super Bowl in their first season. So apparently Dan Marino led them to the Super Bowl but lost. Ben Roethlisberger went to the Super Bowl but lost. Joe Flacco went to the Super Bowl, lost. Russell Wilson went to the Super Bowl and lost as a rookie.
Wow.
Mark Sanchez, didn't even know that guy was a thing, but they went to the Super Bowl and lost.
So it's been a while since we've had a breakout rookie take them all the way in the first year.
Yeah, and nobody has ever, as a rookie, won the Super Bowl in their first season. So, I mean, like, there is a chance. There's still a chance. Technically a 1 in 4 chance.
That's right.
Yeah, I'll see what happens, man.
Yeah, well, for sure. So check it out, guys, on Betway. Let's talk about, let's circle all the way back to what started this whole conversation about Roki Sasaki. They obviously got Roki Sasaki, the Dodgers got him, and the Toronto Blue Jays, they didn't. And we're seeing right now, and this is not even like Blue Jay bias why we're talking about it. I think this is like such a major talking point right now in the MLB, is how the Blue Jays continue to come up second. It's almost comedical right? Comical, excuse me.
Yeah.
At this point, that the Blue Jays keep finishing second place. And they tried. I mean, they went out and they made that Miles Straw trade, which we'll talk about, which is very controversial. And they got $2 million of extra bonus pool money to sign Roki. And they still came up short. They did everything right, apparently, at the time, and they still came up short. And now they're rumored to be on Max Scherzer. They're still rumored to be on Anthony Santander and Pete Alonso. But it feels like at this point, everyone's frustrated. Nobody believes anything that is coming out of these rumors about the Blue Jays being in anybody because they just keep inevitably losing. Thoughts on the Blue Jays continuing to lose this offseason and the prior offseason?
Well, I mean, it's a really tough sell for the Toronto Blue Jays, right? And especially when you are up against the LA Dodgers. Like, it's, we were trying for a long period of time there to convince ourselves that there was any actual reason as to why Roki would want to come here. And, the truth was there just wasn't, you try to spin a different story and it feels like, for the Dodgers, it just feels so easy. And then like you're really trying to paint this elaborate picture as to why he'd want to come here. It just didn't make sense. It really didn't. And for a lot of free agents, it doesn't. Now, I would hope and assume that somebody's going to want to take the Toronto Blue Jays money at some point. But, God only knows when that's going to happen. Because, like, you've been in on everybody, right? You've been in on everybody. So, I don't know.
You gotta hope that somebody, if you're the Blue Jays, you gotta hope that somebody takes your money. I mean, if nobody takes the Blue Jays money, I think there's really a big problem here. It's not about the money anymore. Which I think we're already starting to get to that point. It's not about the money. I mean, you have Vladdy leaving at the end of next year, possibly. There's no real future in place for this Toronto Blue Jays team. You're seeing how this management has mismanaged and not really committed fully to winning in the last couple of years, and they've done some really weird strategies where they're trading away players for defense, which obviously hasn't worked. Here's a fun fact. Ever since they went over to that defensive mind strategy, they've been a 500 ball team from the prior year in 2023 and this year, 500 even.
Really?
Yep. They've been a 500 ball. I think they're 2 games over 500.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I know.
74 wins.
I made a video on that. Yeah, 74 and 89, and it comes out to being like 163.
Wow.
So then it's like, it's terrible.
Did you factor in playoffs?
No playoffs. No.
Right.
Well, if I factor in playoffs, then they're definitely below 500.
Yes, yeah.
Definitely below. But point is, it's like whatever they're doing is not working, and people are calling for the heads of Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro in Toronto, and they need to rectify that situation. I think if they want to get anything done, because it's lost at this point. It's a lost cause.
Now they are interested in Max Scherzer. That was a recent report that just came out. Ultimately, like that is somebody that I could genuinely see coming here, because I feel like Toronto right now, if they're capable of getting anyone, it's the guys that people don't want, and it's the guys that don't have a lot of other suitors. Now, I don't know who else has been looking at Max Scherzer, whether or not there's
people.
That's the thing.
No,
probably
nobody.
not a whole lot, right? Because
Yeah.
you're talking about somebody who's pretty old, that's probably going to get overpaid, that has a high chance of getting injured. So across the board, there's a lot of like negatives toward this guy, but that sounds like a Blue Jay to me.
Yeah, and it's still, what's funny is even with Max Scherzer, no one really wanting him and his injury history, Ben Nicholson-Smith still says they have to convince Max Scherzer to come play here because, well, Max, if no one wants me, if the Jays only want me, and I'm going to play on this losing ball club, well, I'm just going to go retire. Like, he literally won't even take the money to go play in Toronto to uproot his life for 1 year. He'll just retire.
Well, that's, and Max Scherzer has made over $300 million in MLB. So at this point, it's like, what's another 10?
15?
What's another 15? Do I really want to move, to Canada for a whole year and play on a shit team and, go through all that process? Like, eventually it does. You start to wonder, like, is that worth $15 million to me? And it might not. Like, whereas if the LA Dodgers were calling, which they won't because the rotation's too good. But if they were, he probably would go.
Absolutely, he would. And so Ben's saying, like, you got to get either Alonso or Santander to then convince Scherzer, which is, the same conversation we're having with Roki Sasaki. It's like, well, maybe you go get Pete Alonso or Santander to then convince Roki to come here. But, it's just funny how it's the same problem with the Jays. You have to get guys on the team to convince other guys to get on the team. And it's
well, it's exactly right, and it's the opposite problem for the Dodgers, the opposite thing with the Dodgers, where it's like they have so many guys that it's easy to convince other people, and it is a snowball effect, right? Well, you get Ohtani, which then leads you to get Yoshinobu Yamamoto, which then leads you to get Roki, which then also leads you to get more fans, which then leads you to get more money, which then leads you to go out and get Tanner Scott, which then, you know what I mean? It's like it's this sick, it's a snowball effect where now it's just like now you've built up this massive thing where if they call, every single other free agent's going to pick up immediately and prioritize that call. And because you have all these elites, everybody's watching, so you obviously have the money to pay said individual. So it's so much easier than whereas the Toronto Blue Jays, like you're just in this terrible shit cycle where you can't get anybody. Nobody wants to be the first one to go there because there's nothing promising. So ultimately, like what needs to happen for Toronto is like there's got to be some type of promise on the squad. Years ago, you had that when it was Guerrero and Bichette coming up, and you were able to convince other guys because they could buy into the vision and they could see the future. There is no future right now, and it's very difficult to convince free agents on something that isn't there.
Well, yeah, exactly, right? Like, so the Blue Jays, I thought this was crazy. It's January 20th, and there's still no major signing. Yeah, they got Jeff Hoffman, and they signed back Jimmy Garcia, but that's just like filler guys. Like there's so many bullpen pieces out there. You got to fill out the bullpen, but they still haven't gotten that piece, that major piece, whether it be a starting pitcher or it's going to be a guy to fill out the lineup. And right now, I mean, hell, like they're in a position right now where they're going to keep losing. And I want to talk a little bit about Vladdy too. Like Vladdy, the still out there right now, where Vladdy's got until February 18th. We're now past the 1 month mark. It's now less than a month for the Blue Jays to sign Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And even right after Sasaki signed, all these reports were coming out about, like, oh, here's some major destinations where Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is going to go and get traded to. Like, is that on the table still? I know we talked about it before of, like, no, the Jays aren't going to do it because it would be death sentence to the Toronto Blue Jays, but aren't they already dead?
Well, look, they're not going to extend them, but I don't.
Yeah.
They're not going to extend them. They're not going to trade them, and they're going to do the worst possible thing, which is just like ride with it, win 70 games, and then he's going to walk.
Yep.
And then it's like everyone's going to get fired a year too late, 2 years too late.
Oh yeah.
And then you're going to enter into like a long-winded rebuild, and God only knows how long that's going to take.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
So,
I wonder at the Rogers Center if you start seeing signs of, like, fire Ross Atkins.
You already did.
Like we started hearing chants, and I think I saw a couple signs.
That's the thing. Like, everybody wants them to be gone. Like, it's not a well-run organization, Like, you're looking at the other side of the spectrum. You got the Dodgers doing everything right, and the Toronto Blue Jays doing everything wrong. And, like, ultimately, again, like, it's one of those things where Guerrero hits free agency, the Mets are going to call. Fuck, the Dodgers might even call. They'd find a way.
They'll figure it out. They'll play third base. There you go.
Sure, right? Like they legitimately, and if they do, you prioritize those phone calls over the Toronto Blue Jays one.
Of course.
Even it though you've been here for years.
And it's wild to me. It's like if I'm an MLB fan looking at the Blue Jays, I'm baffled. Why? How could you offer Shohei 700? You give Soto, I think it's around the 650 mark. And then you can't even offer Vladimir Guerrero Jr. anything.
Because they're stupid, man.
They're just stupid.
Yeah, exactly, right? And they're gonna
the most valuable piece to your organization you can't even pay.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And it's a poorly run franchise, and we hate it. So that's where the Toronto Blue Jays are at. Everybody, is there anything else we're talking about today?
That's everything right now. It's going into a little bit of a quiet zone, but hopefully soon we hear something about Santander, Alex Bregman's still out there, Pete Alonso. Fuck, guys, like these guys are still out here. Like, where are the deals right now? You had Sasaki, that was a lot of fun, but where are these other guys? Where are they going to go? Spring pitchers and catchers report is in like 3 to 4 weeks. Let's go, guys. So if you guys are enjoying the podcast and you're watching on YouTube, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to Bad for Baseball. We're going to be back this upcoming Thursday, so we'll see y'all there, everybody.
Cheers, folks.